In the summer of 1994, it looked as though the sun was setting on Kurt Warner's NFL dreams. After his senior season at Northern Iowa, Warner had not been drafted by an NFL team. He was left with only free agent contract offers from the San Diego Chargers and the Green Bay Packers.
I opted to go to Green Bay thinking, okay, they've got 3 quarterbacks. I'm going to be the 4th. If I can beat out one of them, if something happens to one of them, if they get injured in a preseason game, all those things looked good for me. And so, I jumped at the opportunity to go to Green Bay. Only problem was the 3 quarterbacks that they did have, Brett Favre, Mark Brunell, and Ty Detmer. Because of the talent that they had there, I never got a chance to play in a game, never got a chance to really showcase what I could do. So I had to go away wondering, will I get a legitimate opportunity, and can I play at this level and, fulfill the dream that I've had for so many years?
Warner returned to Cedar Rapids. He worked out on the fields at Northern Iowa by day. By night, he stayed loose working the graveyard shift at a local grocery store.
It was called Hy-Vee, Midwest chain. There was always like a Nerf football display. So when it got really early in the morning, we might throw the balls down the aisles or have some pickup football games and just mess around a little bit. All the other people were stocking at nights and were hoping to become the manager of the grocery store. And here I am saying, well, I'm just doing this for a few months until the NFL calls again. And you could see that they were kind of looking at each other like, come on. I mean, how many people are ever going to go from stocking shelves to the NFL? At the time, I was dating who would be my future wife. I didn't have any income, other than stocking shelves. I didn't have a car.
Arizona Cardinals quarterback Kurt Warner is regarded as one of the best to ever play the game. He's been to the Super Bowl 3 times, winning Super Bowl 34 with the St. Louis Rams. Statistically, the 4-time Pro Bowler is the 2nd most accurate quarterback in the history of the NFL. In the 2008 season, he led the Cardinals to their very first Super Bowl appearance. But that's just one side of Kurt's story. The other side began over 20 years ago when he met his wife, Brenda. He was a struggling quarterback, and she was a single mom with 2 kids.
One of the first times I'd ever gone to the bar, wasn't much into it, but my roommates had kind of pulled me out to the bar and just noticed her from across the room. Short, brown, spiky hair with the mini skirt on and the red boots and dancing up a storm out there.
The two hit it off, and at the end of the night, Kurt tried to kiss her. And though Brenda was interested in him, she felt she needed to tell him about her situation.
He leaned over to kiss me, and I thought, seriously, I'm not playing a game, so I'm 25, divorced mother of 2. If I never see you again, I totally understand.
The next day, Kurt paid her a visit, and he was met at the door by her 2-year-old son, Zach.
Went over there, I guess, to see her, but really the whole encounter was about her kids. That, said hello, walked in the door, and immediately saw her kids. Her son Zachary grabbed me by the hand, started leading me around the house.
Zach warmed up to Kurt almost immediately, and it didn't seem to matter to Kurt that Zach was blind. And that made quite an impression on Brenda, who was watching them with her infant daughter Jessie in her arms.
There are things that are deal breakers, and those are kind of deal makers, where Zachary took his hand. Being blind, he didn't know who Kurt was walking in, but he just knew it was somebody new. And he walked in, laid on the floor with Zachary, wrestled him. I sat Jessie down, and he just interacted with the kids, and I thought, this is something different.
Kurt and Brenda's relationship grew, but Kurt's football career wasn't going well. He tried out with the Green Bay Packers, but going up against the likes of Brett Favre and Trent Dilfer didn't help. He was cut before the season even started. And now, with no job and no money, he moved into Brenda's parents' basement and got a job that only paid him $5.50 an hour.
I took the infamous job of working nights at a grocery store. And it was, so much of life is about pride. And, here I am, living in her parents' basement without a job. And I'm just thinking, gosh, this isn't me. This isn't what I want to do. I don't want to be, just kind of taken from everybody else and not given anything.
Kurt and Brenda had a great relationship, but there were some things they didn't see eye to eye on, especially when it came to having a relationship with God.
He would tell me some detail, and I'd say, well, show me that in the Bible. If you think that that's your core of your spiritual belief, show me. So we would honestly either argue about Jesus, or we would decide that night to make out that night. It was one or the other, and that was our dating process. And kind of weird, he preferred to make out, I preferred to argue about Jesus until he finally got it.
What was it that you believed? What you believing, was it right, or you just didn't know where to find it? Or
you know, I think I just believed in the story. You know, I understood the story. I understood that Jesus died on the cross. I always use the reference that he was kind of like my spare tire, that up to that point I was driving, I was in control, and if I ever needed him, I could jump back in the back and grab my spare tire, and he could help me out in whatever trying time that was.
Kurt and Brenda grew even closer, and Kurt felt the pressure to make enough money to marry and to have a family. So in 1995, he joined the Arena Football League with the Iowa Barnstormers. And when he did, he got more than he bargained for when his teammates invited him to a Bible study.
It was in that process where, you know, I started to realize I really had no idea why I believed what I believed.
Right.
So I thought, okay, you know, they're asking me these questions. I'm going to figure out some answers for them. I'm going to start reading the Bible, and I'm going to find out why I believe what I believe. And it was through that process where, as you open the Bible and you read the Scriptures, it's obvious that it's all about Jesus, and it's all about what he did on the cross, and it's all about giving your life to him. And so in the process of trying to prove everybody around me wrong, I ultimately proved them all right.
Kurt realized he needed to make a change. Then, Brenda had received news that her parents were killed when a tornado hit their town in Arkansas.
I was hurting so much, and yet he was there to just listen and not judge me, and also be there for Jesse and Zach, my kids, because they lost their grandparents.
I wasn't playing well on the football field. Her parents were killed. You know, and it was right around that time where I'd come to the realization that I needed to commit my life to Jesus.
During their grief, Kurt gave his life to the Lord. And when he did, things began to change. He and Brenda married, and after leading the Barnstormers to 2 consecutive Arena Bowl appearances, he was offered a chance to play in the NFL Europe League for the Amsterdam Admirals. Then, in 1998, Kurt's dream to play in the NFL was realized when he signed with the St. Louis Rams.
what changed?
You know, what changed was that I no longer was looking at me, and I began looking at everybody around me, and specifically looking at what God wanted for me. And that was a complete change for me. I realized that it wasn't about me, that if it works out in the NFL, it's because God wants me there, and it's for me to do something for him.
Kurt spent 6 seasons with the Rams, and after a season with the New York Giants, he moved on to the Arizona Cardinals, where he's still making his mark as one of the game's best. But that pales to his role as a husband and father of 7. He and Brenda have written a book about their life together entitled First Things First, with the underlying message of staying focused on God.
You know, I had death hit me, I had divorce hit me, I had infidelity, I had special needs child be affected. You don't know what's ahead. It's a fallen world. So I encourage people to see that if you build that foundation, then that's what matters. Just like our marriage, we knew what we believed before the NFL gave us millions of dollars. So when the millions of dollars come, that's not who defines us. That the NFL doesn't, the popularity, the fame and fortune, we have that foundation built beforehand.
It doesn't mean everything's going to be perfect. And I think that's what people get the sense of when, okay, they see Kurt Warner and they know his story, and, you know, Kurt and Brenda and the 7 kids, and everything's just perfect. And that's a huge part of this book, is that it's not perfect. You know, her life, she's gone through struggles. I've gone through struggles. We still battle together. I mean, we struggle raising kids, you know, but the thing, like she said, is that we always know that God's with us and God's leading us, and God's going to work it together no matter where we screw up. I don't know how we do it, you know, without him. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I think back to those years when I tried to do it by myself, and I think about my life now, and I think about, you know, marriage and 7 kids, and I'm just thinking, there was no way I could figure this out and be successful by myself. That I know it's all about Jesus, and that's why we are where we are.
Presenting Curtis Martin for enshrinement into the Pro Football Hall of Fame, Bill Parcells.
at the end of the day, you know, I've achieved a lot of things, and I've done a lot of wonderful things in life that I'm so grateful for. But I'll tell you, my greatest achievement in my life was helping my mother and nurturing my mother from the bitter, angry, beaten, hurt person that she was, nurturing her to be a healthy, to have a healthy mindset and to forgive my father for everything that he did to her. By the time it was like, that's my greatest accomplishment. By the time he died, she was cooking him food every day and taking it to him. I mean, and she is so happy right now, and I'm so grateful for it. But, you know, out of all the things that I've achieved, one of the things that I learned is that it's not necessarily what you achieve in life that matters most, but it's who you become in the process of those achievements that really matters. I'd also like to thank my beautiful, beautiful wife. I just got married a couple years ago. And we have a little 7-month-old named Ava. And honey, I'd just like to thank you. And can I just have one thing? Can I have all my ex-teammates, whether you were in Pitt, New England, or the Jets, can I just have you stand up for 1 second? You guys, I just want you to know that you guys are like the brothers I never had. Many of you have carried me. You've taught me so much. In our class meeting rooms, it was always funny because I never really understood the X's and O's of football, so people always made fun of me. But you guys, I really appreciate you all, and I appreciate every coach and everyone who has had anything to do with my playing career. Thank you. I would also like to thank the owners that I played for, Mr. Kraft, the Hesses, and Mr. Woody Johnson. Mr. Kraft, you've been great to me. You know, you guys used to invite me over your house to eat, and I really appreciate that. Mr. Johnson, you still continue to help me in my life after football with all the business things that I'm doing, and I really appreciate you both. And if I could, I mean, I really wish that I could ask God to stand up right now, because I'll tell you this, I'm not living, I'm not breathing. My life is nothing without God. And I'm probably one of the most humble, I'm so grateful and so appreciative for what God has done in my life. And last but not least, I'd just like to thank all the fans. You know, when I realized that football was a vehicle, I used it to impact people's lives and do positive things. But I also used football as a vehicle to reach fans and speak to fans and get to know you all, because a lot of what you all do, you just don't know how much it means to us on the field. So thank you all. You know, at my eulogy, I don't want my daughter or whoever it may be giving my eulogy to talk about how many yards I gained or touchdowns I scored. I want my daughter to be able to talk about the man that Curtis Martin was, how, you know, when she was growing up, she looked for a man who was like her father, that he was a man of integrity, a man of strong character, and a God-fearing man. That's what I want. And then at the end of the day, she say, oh yeah, he was a pretty good football player. Thank you all.